Hi guys, and welcome back to the Spooky Cinema, and we are going to be talking about the sequel to the Smile movie, Smile 2. How did it hold up to the original? Was it better? Was it worse? Stay tuned to find out. So if you're not familiar with the Smile movies, the first one, or what this one's about, just to kind of give you an idea, these movies are what I imagine if all my anxiety became a person and then directed a movie, then that's what this movie is. So all those icky, awful feelings and the things and moments in life that kind of make you go, ugh, and just make your stomach hurt a little bit is kind of what this movie is personified. So if those things are extremely triggering for you, like, kind of the feeling of stage fright, then this movie might not be for you. But I can tell you that if you are just a person who loves gore and loves to be creeped out, then this is absolutely a movie you should see. So the original Smile came out in 2022, and that one starred Sosie Bacon, who is the daughter of the famous Kevin Bacon. And she is a very, very strong lead actress, so they definitely brought the same strength in Smile 2 with another strong actress named Naomi Scott, and they definitely both had extremely strong performances in each of their roles. And we will get into more of the details on exactly what differed between these two movies and how they both held up. So a returning character that you'll see from the original that comes back in the sequel is the character of Joel, which is played by Kyle Gallner. And you'll remember him from other horror films like the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. He was also in The Haunting in Connecticut. He is definitely a very strong actor, so it was really good to see him return for this one. So to start off, this movie picks up beautifully from the original. It definitely picks up right off of Joel's character's whole storyline, and it instantly throws you into the action, which I always appreciate when it comes to a scary movie. Sometimes I get a little bored when the movie takes too long to pick up, so I was really happy to see that they did that. So first, let's talk about the pros for this movie, the things that I really appreciated and liked about it versus the original and how it held up. So I really liked that, again, they had an equally strong female lead, and the storyline definitely focused on that character, and that was a really great parallel to the original. There is absolutely an equal level of creepy, anxiety-riddled scenes in this movie, and it is an intense thrill ride just like the original. Another pro is you will definitely get a lot of the same impactful and really unforgettable death scenes, I would say. That is one thing that definitely stuck around for me in the first one, was just how crazy and out there all of the scenes are. Not to mention that just by adding a sinister smile to a scary movie, just how creepy and off-putting that is. It is just beautifully done. And similar to the first one, there are definitely some twists that you won't see coming and that you can't really predict. And that's actually one of my favorite aspects of the first movie and this one, is that there's so much involved and there's so many layers to this movie that it's really hard for you to predict what's going to happen. And that's even for someone like me, who I have ADHD, and this is kind of one of the curses of having it, is you're very observant of all kinds of little tiny details, to the point that 9 times out of 10 you can tell almost immediately who the killer is or where the plot's going. And that kind of, even though I do have that ability, it does kind of put a damper on things sometimes when I can tell a plot too easily. But in this one, that is not the case, and I really enjoy that part of it, is not knowing exactly what's going to happen or how things are going to end up. So this one and the original both have that going for it, and I was really happy to see that they followed through on that in this one, just like the original. Another pro about this one is the first one had a normal, everyday person who this phenomenon happens to, who you kind of follow down the rabbit hole with. And what I really enjoyed about this second one is that it kind of puts that on the other end of the spectrum, where you're actually following along with someone who is completely in the limelight, a celebrity, someone who is constantly being observed, constantly around people, in crowds. And it really was a big difference from the original one, where the person kind of almost gets very, very isolated, to this one where they really have no choice but to be just kind of shoved into a lot of crowds of people. So I really was looking forward to that, and I was not disappointed in all the things that they did with that aspect of the storyline. So if that's something that you're wondering how that's going to play out, I think you'll enjoy it. So for cons, there weren't a whole lot, just because it's done so well. The cinematography, the visuals, the way that they connect the storyline of the main actress, her storyline, Sky Riley, being this pop star, and how they weave that into everything is just really beautifully done. But there were a few things that really just kind of got under my skin a little bit, and I know that this is with intention because I did see some videos later, which I will put a little screenshot here of that, where the director actually talks about this. So one of the things that I felt, was kind of a con was that Voss Water and Sky, her mom or momager, were more of the villains than the actual villain. And, in a way that's kind of good, but kind of bad, because, there are some things that, are definitely true to life that it added to the story. But when it came to the Voss Water thing, so you're going to see what I mean when you watch it, but there's just some aspects of that. And I know there was no product placement for this, according to the director. However, it just to me felt like very much a product placement. I think that a similar sort of storyline could have happened with a glass pitcher of water and a simple glass of water. So for me, for them saying that it was the only glass bottle, that's why they used it, just kind of seemed like a cop-out. And I do feel like, whether they admit to it or not about it being product placement, that it absolutely kind of is, and I'm sure that Voss will definitely see a hike in sales for sure from this movie. However, the scenes that involve the water guzzling as a result of this, and again, this is not a spoiler because it doesn't give away anything major to the film, but there are just some scenes where Sky Riley, the main character in the film, is guzzling down water in the absolute most obnoxious, loud way that you could possibly drink water. And again, it may be just, a pet peeve of mine, but to hear the sounds of people eating, or the sounds of people's mouths, or anything like that, or heavy mouth breathing, those types of things just really bother me. And I know that the director did mention that this was with intention, that they actually wanted it to be annoying or off-putting to the audience. Well, mission accomplished, because I can tell you, every single time I saw that character reach for water, I rolled my eyes and thought, why? Because it is just over the top, and I didn't like it personally. I really think they could have done one of those scenes and it been sufficient. I didn't really get, once we got toward the end of the movie, I didn't really get what it added to the plot at all. So I know some people might enjoy that part of it. We are not the same if that's the case. So I'm just saying, if somebody super loudly guzzling water is kind of a pain point for you, then be warned, because there are quite a few scenes of that. The other con that I will say is that I don't feel like the ending for this one was quite as strong as the ending for the original. The original one just kind of left me sitting there for a minute like, oh my god. And in a way, I kind of like that, because so many movies, sometimes you already know what's going to happen in the end, or you kind of get bored toward the end and you're like, okay, let's just get it over with already. But in that one, I wasn't sure what was going to happen, how it was going to end, and by the end of it, I just was left slack-jawed watching it. And it's kind of the way I felt when I watched The Mist the first time. And I'm sure if you've seen The Mist, then you know what I'm talking about, how you just kind of sit there in silence for a good minute contemplating what you just saw, because it's crazy. But anyway, that's kind of how I felt about this ending, about the ending of the first one. So for the second one, I didn't really feel that same feeling. So to me, it was not as strong an ending. And I do get why they ended it the way they did. And when you see it, you'll see that it kind of leaves, some openings for, new possibilities for the next film. However, it just didn't have the same effect in my opinion. And I would have gone a different direction with the way in which it ends, personally speaking. But because, again, I don't want to spoil anything, I'm going to make sure that I just leave it at that. And, once you watch it, definitely let me know in the comments what you think about it and maybe how you would change it without hopefully spoiling it for anybody else. So the next thing I'm going to go into are the usual movie tests that I do when I go into a movie. I do a couple of things. One of them is called the trailer test. So the trailer test is basically just looking at what I got in the theater and how I felt at the end of it versus what I saw in the trailer, and whether I feel like the trailer delivered on what the movie actually gave me once I actually saw it in theaters. So for this one, I do feel like it absolutely passed the trailer test for sure, because I definitely felt like there were parts of it that were given away in the trailer, but definitely not enough that it took away from the experience at the movie theater. So if you're worried about that, just know you'll get a lot of good moments that are not in the trailer. The next test that I do is the husband sleep test. So my husband is one of those people that if he is not fully 1000% engaged in a movie, then he is probably going to fall asleep. So if you have a fellow moviegoer that goes to watch movies with you who tends to have that sort of heads or tails about it, then this is just for you. So for this one, it failed the husband sleep test. I would say after the first introductory scene where it did have that action scene, immediately after that, it just kind of dives down because of course it has to set up the story and how things kind of progress. But for my husband, that was just an immediate snore fest. So just know if the person you're watching with is one of those people that may or may not fall asleep, they might fall asleep on you on this one. I was engaged the whole time just because I love the original movie, so I was really excited to see all of it. Even though I was a bit tired, I did not fall asleep during this. Another one that I like to talk about is the balance of the movie. So how do I feel that it did as far as the pacing? Did it have enough thrills versus, the slower parts? How did it do overall as far as that goes? I do feel like this one was very evenly balanced. I feel like you absolutely got those crazy moments at just the right times in the movie in order to re-engage you. I know my husband didn't feel that way, however I did. I feel like it definitely had one of these types of paces throughout the movie, so you always had something to pick it back up or reinvigorate your interest as soon as it took one of those dips. So would I rewatch or buy this movie when it comes out on home release? Absolutely, I would. And I would definitely watch both of them back to back. I would absolutely look forward to another installment of this franchise if they do come out with another one. And I would also be super intrigued to see where they take the storyline and if there is a new frame of reference or viewpoint, because the way the original was from a psychiatrist's point of view and then this one being from a pop star, I would love to see exactly what they're going to do with the next installment and how different it would be and where they would take it. And next, would I recommend that you go and see this in theaters? 100%, I would definitely recommend going and seeing this in theaters. The whole overall of this movie is just one that I feel would definitely be better consumed in theaters, just because there are so many images and so much that is done with the cinematography in this movie and all the sounds and everything else, that it is a great movie to experience in theaters. I will say though, if you are squeamish or anything like that when it comes to the crazy gore scenes, this one is one where you will likely have to look away and bury your face in your hands, because there are some intense moments in this movie that are not for the faint of heart, that is for sure. Even me, again, who I am a very tenured horror movie fan, I still have to look away on some scenes. I try not to, because I love special effects and I love seeing all that stuff, and not necessarily the horror of it, but I just get really intrigued in seeing how they can do those types of things. And I even like watching the behind the scenes stuff because I've just been a movie fan and a hardcore movie buff my entire life, so getting to see those things is just one of those aspects that it's kind of like when somebody else is intrigued by magic shows and really like seeing those and is filled with wonder on how they do that. That's kind of how I feel on those scenes. I know it sounds weird, but it just is one of those things where I'm like, man, how in the heck did they do that? Like, that is so crazy. I can't even believe what I'm watching. So when it comes to those things, and this is the same aspect I feel for not just special effects when it comes to horror, but when it comes to seeing zombies like in The Walking Dead, or when it comes to seeing like crazy end of the world movies like Day After Tomorrow, I have always been intrigued by how they do those scenes, and then watching the how they made it, because it's just so cool, and it's almost like my idea of magic when it comes to that. So my overall rating for this film, and what did I think of it as far as a scale of 1 to 10. So just to give you a reference, for the original Smile movie, I gave that one a 9 out of 10. And that's just because, again, the whole storyline, the simplicity of being able to scare the living daylights out of a person with just someone creepily smiling, I just thought that was ingenious and just brought a whole new, genre of creepiness, I think, to the horror industry. So because of all of that, and because of just how strong the acting is from Sosie Bacon in that movie, I can't give it any less than a 9 because it's just so great. Where I do think that both movies kind of drop the ball just a little bit is the image of the monster or entity that kind of causes all of what's going on. I'm not a huge fan of the look of it. I mean, I don't really know what they could do, honestly, to improve upon it, but I really feel like it should look scarier than it does. It kind of looks a little more googly. I guess that's the word I would use for it. That just kind of makes me laugh versus frightens me. And I guess because of how intense the rest of it is, I don't really mind it in these films because you've already scared the tar out of me anyway with everything else. So I don't know if I could really handle a non-googly face monster. I don't know. But I just do feel like they could have done something better with that. Same as with the ending on Smile 2. Could have been a stronger ending in my opinion. That being said, I give the original Smile a 9 out of 10. And so for this one, I feel like it delivered on every single level the same as the original did. And just kind of gave you different angles, different aspects. And because of that, I just feel like they were absolutely on par with each other. Was it perfect? No. Is any movie perfect? It's really hard to get to that. Which is why, you know, I don't really necessarily ever give a movie a 10 because I feel like for the most part there's always room for improvement, but I do feel like these are pretty close. So I do feel like these are a 9 out of 10 for me, both first one and the second one, for different reasons. This second one has so many layers of storyline that just kind of open up into each other in such a great way that I feel that just really added a lot to the storyline versus, you know, with most sequels, things just kind of take a dive and it's really hard for a sequel to be on par with the first one. It's especially even harder for it to be better than the first one. So I feel like this one's pretty neck and neck. And depending on the storyline that you like better, whether it's, you know, a regular person or a pop star, then you might even think this one's better than the original. I always welcome, of course, everyone to watch a movie in theaters, whether or not you have heard bad or good about it, if you're interested in seeing it. I know I have cheated myself out of opportunities on seeing great movies that later on I'm like, man, I wish I'd seen this in theaters, because I read a couple of bogus reviews and didn't go see it, and then really regretted that after I saw it on home release. So that being said, I definitely highly recommend that you check it out in theaters. If you have a chance and you circle back to this video, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're interested in seeing any of my other movie reviews, then click on the on-screen link that will show up here. And also make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so that way you can get notifications on when I come up with a new video. I also have a lot of movie lists that I do as well, so if you are looking for a certain type of movie, then definitely hit up my movie list also to see if any of those are either refreshers for ones that you've seen in the past and you're like, oh yeah, I can't wait to see that again. But no matter what, keep it spooky, my friends, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.